How you been?
Uh, it's been quite busy at work.
Yeah.
Yeah, long days. That's all right.
Mm.
Year-end
Okay.
crunch and lots of
You don't
planning.
look too weathered.
What's that?
You don't look too weathered. You look you can still do backflips off the boat and cut
If
up the lake
if you
and
could see inside my head, you'd
for the
see.
headache.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for doing this. Yeah.
No, no, no. How good week? You had a trip last week. We're going to talk about that in a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah. I was in Dallas for a few days.
Yeah.
I am on a board. Actually has a camp with he was from Sundo Camp.
Okay.
Okay, remember that? Yeah,
Yeah.
heard about that. And
Yeah.
I was there once in the early '90s, and amazing work. And yeah, through the years, he's continued a ministry where he delivers Bibles to China and supports pastors there. And they asked me to be on the board a few years ago. It's Barnabas and Barnabas and Partners, and so yeah, it was privileged to be there. And it's interesting because, and I'm being candid here, but I'm part of the board at Houghton, President's Advisory Board, the not the main board, but a secondary board. 27 years in the NFL, so business experience and efficiency. But it's funny where I come from camp is where they know me. I'm not my grandfather. I'm not my dad. I um, always,
Okay.
always made sure on Wednesday nights that we did pizza duty in the teepee. And hold on one second, I have an animal outside and it's about to snow. So hang on. We All right. We'll never get that minute back, or you'll somehow find a way to make that into a blooper. So here we go.
It was fun though that you left on that side, but you came back in on that.
It's a
That's
shifty animal, yes.
amazing. Well,
Yeah.
so hold your thought on that because we're going to talk about that because there's a funny story that goes along with it that you know.
Okay.
But let me,
All these people we keep getting caught up with
yeah,
after all these years, and it's going to happen again tonight with Ed.
yeah,
Um, whatever time we allocate to this interview is not enough, like to
yeah,
truly catch up. There's so much follow up, and between both of us, like, they'll say, "Oh, I meant to say this, I meant to add this." And so we have to find a way to sort of play catch up with all the people that we've spoken to. It happened again today with Kim Pasquini and Jackie, and it's happened a bunch with Bruce. And anyway, so
Okay,
I
so
follow your lead here. Yes.
if people are listening right now, and I know about 300 or 400 people are, there's no stress coming on the show, right? As you can see with the lineup of folks that we've had, everybody has a great time. We have a great time. It's fun. It's people love the.
Yeah, it is.
It's just fun. So what's wrong with having people come back, right? So you missed saying something the first time. It's okay. I can come up with another 10 questions, I guarantee you, and we'll so can you. We'll come
Has
up.
to be at least three. No, no, you covered the three. Whatever. Yeah.
So
Base.
yeah, I mean anybody who, you know, put up with this once, maybe they'll put up with it twice and we can bring them back and all the unanswered questions we can tackle.
Well, and I'll bring up a great point that you made too about it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare, where people, society and news, the news cycle happens so quickly where, you figure, oh, this is it. This is our only opportunity to
No.
find this out, and then we're going to move on. No, like somebody could be listening to this. Full disclosure, it's late in 2020, four right now, and they could be listening next year, a few months or whatever, and we're going to find a way to get caught up. And
Yeah.
there may or may not be another book in the waiting that could be kind of like a safety net catch-all. But anyway.
Yeah. I think there should be a third book where we just publish these interviews.
Ah, I
'Cause I
like
think
that.
it's interesting. Anyway, okay. So first of all, just this will be a promo for the conversation we had with Doug Dietsche. I went back and I realized we had this story, and then you wrote it in your book. If you haven't read Don's book, get the book. You won't have to read it off this screen. We're not going to read it for you. Go get the book. But you put this exact thing that you describe here. We showed that on our interview with Doug Dietsche. So good, and you got to go see that clip at least. And I think we'll put that just on when we get to YouTube. We'll put it on just as a
Yeah, there
clip
you
by
go.
itself.
We could have a problem on YouTube, as I tried once with the
We'll
video
get
thing.
around that.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, okay. You know
We'll
some
get
folks.
around it.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So then all right, I'm going to set this up. So you went to Dallas, you had your board meeting, and we had a conversation, I guess, after you got back, right? And was this Friday night?
I'm sure we did. Oh, are you kidding me? This is
Yeah. No,
this.
no,
Oh, yeah. I was gonna. This we cannot. Here we
no.
go.
We're going to talk about this because it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah.
So we're on the phone. You're telling me about a conversation you had at your board meeting.
I
And
was leaning on you for advice, my friend. I texted you, and I kind of encrypted something in there that expressed concern. And of course, you picked up on it. And you're like, "Hey, you okay? What's going on?" And I explained it. It's not earth-shattering, but it's heavy enough that I need some guidance and some prayer. And so we're having that kind of conversation, and you were lending your advice. And then
I got a text. And I'm like, and it just had the phone number. It was not someone in my contacts. And I'm like, who is this? And so I clicked the text, and there's a picture.
and you started to say the number. It was
Okay.
five
So
one
first,
eight.
yeah, so first, a little bit of background. On, we've discussed this story on the show, right? Where this is in your book. This is about when I made a go-kart at camp postseason.
Yes.
And I get this picture in text. And I'm like, what the heck is that with this comment? And you thought your go-kart was cool. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. So, and I looked at the number, I'm like, was it 518? Right?
Yes.
518. I'm like, I feel like Don had a 518 phone number. Don, do you know what phone number this is? I just got this text. Obviously, it's someone who read your book because, this is right out of your book.
Not mostly, yeah.
So, so I read the number to you, and you go, "That's my dad." So I didn't have his number in my contacts apparently,
He had
uh,
yours.
and he's sending me random while we're on the phone, which we're not on the phone all that much. I mean, we've been doing this once
Right.
or so, but we usually are not on the phone. I just happened to be talking to you on the phone when he texts that, and I said to you, "Bring him on." Bring him on the call. So we conferenced in your dad.
Yep.
Hilarious conversation ensued, especially when your mom joined. That was the highlight of my week. Honestly, that was hilarious.
It was. Listen, too, I talked to him either the next day or the day after that, and we were laughing about how that whole thing played out exactly the way you described. And I said,
Yeah,
how would how could Tom not wonder if that was coordinated on
yeah, it
our
felt like a
part?
setup, right?
And it was, and he laughed. He's like, "Yeah, how could he not think that?" But we both laughed because in no way was it. It was just a random, or however he saw that and thought of
Yeah,
you. He texted you, and then
yeah.
yeah, it was
And then
great.
he's harassing me.
Oh, nice.
So fun. Oh, also, you sent me this today, so I was able to update this list. I mean, we've got a lot in the bag. We've got
Yeah,
Ed Shoot tonight, and then you
oh,
gave me
yeah.
a bunch of other folks that are in the wings, I hope.
In the wings. Well, some of these are concrete, some of these are casual. I've reached out and said, "Hey, you should come on our podcast sometime." And they're like, "Hey, I'd love to," or "That would be fun." I will take "I'd love to," or "That would be fun" as a confirmation, at least
Yeah.
if, but not when. And yeah, for all these people, yeah, it's funny, Nancy, who you brought up last week, and she said, "Yeah, I'd love to come on, after the holidays, and I'll bring Linnea on." And I said, "Perfect. I know you two are very close, and we've done, as you look above there, Phyllis and Doug Miller. We've had, people come on at the same time, and you're such a skilled host that you can make that
Or a goofball.
spread the spread the spread it all around. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I'm looking forward to this.
me too.
That's an impressive list of people. I love
It
it.
is. It is.
So
Yep.
much
And
fun.
I've got some other ideas and people that I think, if I reached out to, they would be open to it. But then I would like to reference Kim and Jackie here, and both, um, after I reached out and they, agreed to come on, each kind of expressed like some, okay, it's gonna, yeah, I look forward to it, but a little bit of, and I can tell you that and texts afterwards that both are
Yeah.
happy that they did, and I know that, and Jackie pretty much put a challenge out to us. She's like, "You got to have more girls on, got to have more ladies on." So okay,
Dude,
yeah, yeah,
we got some good ones on the list here, so
we do.
I'm excited. This is gonna be fun.
Peter Young, that book in the next month or so.
Yeah,
Check that out. It's
yeah,
it's a
I got it. I got to read it now.
yep. All right.
Just a quick reminder, we're still looking for Beth Dodds, but yeah,
Yes, we are.
I think we're ready.
All right. And shoot.
Hey,
There he is.
You
How we
guys
doing?
had me a little worried.
A little worried. How so?
Why's that?
You hanging too much?
Yeah, you said about 8:10, and here we are, 8:17. It's like, what did I do wrong?
Oh, it is.
We had a lot to unpack here from the last week. Sorry about that.
You
No
require
problem, no problem.
a big setup, Ed. Yeah. So, all right, coming to us from Lancaster, PA. Hold on.
Levittown, Pennsylvania,
There we go. Okay.
So
northern suburbs of Philly.
okay,
All right.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, 70, is it right on 76 or?
I'm not too far from the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's nice to meet you, Tom, via Zoom here.
We must have met before because were you at Don's wedding?
Yeah, yeah. That would have been the only time, probably. Yeah.
I think
Okay.
so. I mean,
You just totally stole. Okay. If you were going to bring that up, which I anticipated, I was going to provide video evidence that you were at least both in the same at the same time on a certain 1989, and I will show that to you. Yeah.
June 10th.
June 10th. Yeah.
The only reason I know that I was going through the photo album and I took a picture of my then girlfriend, now current wife, Angela, and on the back it says June 10th, 1989.
That should have rolled off my tongue faster than it rolled off yours, but
she was your plus one. She was your plus one at Don's wedding.
That is correct. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. Yeah. And then,
I've met her too. Then
Ed, yeah, thank you. And I apologize. I should have assumed that you met, but I'm thinking too, like the wedding was in '89, and Ed, so maybe take us back, like, and it's funny because Ed, you and I have talked, and we've been in contact by text. We had a good Zoom meeting and phone call and everything, but I told you. I was kind of like holding back on some of it because I couldn't wait to hear it and share it with. I know a lot of people that can't wait to, get caught up with you, campers. So yeah, like maybe kind of take us back to like your roots to camp and then working, and then we got a lot to cover with pre and post season because you have a common bond there, you and Tom. But
yeah. Well, I'm a numbers guy, so I like doing things in order. Yes, that's a good thing. Yes.
right.
Um, and I got my notepad. I don't have 10 pages like Doug Dietsche, but I have some notes. I have some notes scribbled here.
Love it.
My mom and dad started coming up to camp in the mid to late 50s.
Wow.
And they didn't stay in camp right away. They stayed in Osborne's Cabins, which I think was across the road on Route 30.
Okay.
Don, you could probably check with your dad on that. He would know better where that was located.
Okay.
But they, rented a cabin for a week or two. In those early years, I think they went for 2 weeks. And then they would just come in every day to hear the speaker at camp. And then my parents found out about camp through other friends. Actually, just like you call Ken and May Reed, Uncle Ken and Aunt May, I call my Aunt Alice and Uncle Tom. They're not blood relatives, but they heard about it through friends from their church in the Philadelphia area. So then they started going up, and like I said, we stayed outside of camp. And as your grandfather would say from the pulpit, they brought them up in a basket. Well, in 1961, I arrived on the scene, and in August of that year, I made my first appearance at Camp of the Woods, I guess.
You were like Moses on a basket float, but it was the Saconaga River toward all.
Yeah.
Well, and you had parents.
So then in those early to mid 60s, we ended up staying, when we did stay in camp, then we stayed in the efficiency apartments down in Wichita.
Ah.
There were 2 apartments in there that had a full kitchen and everything. And I guess my parents didn't want to lug us little guys up the hill to the dining hall. They thought it would be easier, I guess, to cook in the efficiency. But then when I look back on it now, it's like, that wasn't much of a vacation for my mom then, because she had to cook the meals then and everything.
You had to go get the food and bring it in. And
yeah.
Charlie John's was the only place, or you brought it from? Yeah.
Brought it from home in coolers, and then supplemented with Charlie John's. Yeah. So mainly in the downstairs apartment in Wichita, but one year for some reason that wasn't available, and we did the upstairs apartment. And the thing that I remember about that upstairs apartment, it didn't have a bathtub. It had a shower stall. So that's the first time I ever took a shower. I always took baths, as a kid growing up.
Ever, right? You mean at camp?
But that was the first time I ever used a shower, because you had to, because it was just a stall shower up in that second floor apartment.
Wow. It's amazing you remember that.
Yeah, it's weird, how some things stick and some things don't. But then once I got home from there, when we came back home, I want to do the shower now. The heck with the bath, So that's a memory from my childhood. And then
your trajectory with bathing went the opposite of Tom. Like we took showers until we lived in the Point, and then we're like, the shower was so scary in that garage that we just went in the lake.
And that shower, I believe, was underneath Chippewa E.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
That's where my Aunt Alice and Uncle Tom used to stay. That was an efficiency down up at the Point above that where you guys showered.
Wow.
So I spent many a time in that upstairs apartment because we would stay for 2 weeks. And so you go to the concert on Friday night. You wouldn't go back to the concert on Saturday night because it was the same thing.
Yeah.
So my parents would play cards or something with my Aunt Alice and Uncle Tom. And then they had a daughter that was older than my sister and I. She kind of babysat us while my parents and my aunt and uncle played. And the thing I always remember about those games, the laughter and the fun they were having, the silliness. Yeah. And it was just so many fond memories. I can still hear those good times to this day.
That's awesome. So what year was that?
So that would have been, in those efficiency years, were in the 60s.
Okay.
Our first year up in the dining hall was 1970. And the reason why I remember that is because I even remember the waiter and the poor girl that waited on us. Doug Bell was our waiter. He played the trumpet, and Cheryl Van Heusen played the piano. Wow. And so when we went home to school that next fall was fourth grade for me. And that's when you were allowed to pick an instrument if you wanted to play an instrument in elementary school.
Mhm.
So I picked the trumpet because Doug, our waiter, had an influence on me, whether
Cool.
he knew it or not. And
Cool.
then my sister, she took piano lessons because the poor girl, Cheryl Van Heusen, she played the piano. And later on, then my first year on staff in 77, I worked with Vanessa Van Heusen, who was Cheryl's younger sister. So kind of full circle there. It's kind of neat over the years, the different groups of siblings you would meet, because, you know, when you're first there, you meet usually the older siblings, and then down the line usually would follow suit in some cases.
Yeah.
In 77 was my first year on staff.
Okay.
I remember coming up between Christmas and New Year's, 76. That was the first time we came up to camp in the wintertime just to check it out, how it would be in the wintertime. And so I remember ice skating in the covered ice rink.
Yep.
And I remember DJ, Dwight Jacobson, and Jimmy Hammond, and I can't remember the other guys, but they needed enough, you know, there was probably a half a dozen guys in there, and they were playing 3-on-3 or whatever. And for whatever reason, they needed another person. So I didn't know who those guys were then, but once I joined staff that following summer, I realized who they were.
They had some clout. Yeah, they had some history and
yeah,
they
so 77 and 78, those were the last 2 years where there was a separate choir and a separate band.
Okay.
So there were like 75 to 80 music staff kids when those larger numbers. That was a big group of kids.
Yeah.
And then so at the end of 78, and I think your Uncle Doug mentions this in the book, he realized because there were so many numbers of us, we didn't have that many tables to wait on in the dining hall, and that's how we made our money.
Yeah.
So he decided we're going to have to downsize this just to give kids more tables then to be able to make more money for your summer working.
It's so interesting you bring that up, Ed, because I read that there was so much, you know, when I read about what Uncle Doug sent and his mindset and his understanding of the full scope of what it meant to be on music staff and, you know, waiting on tables and the fact that above and beyond, you know, ensuring that, you know, the people like you were able to play at that level, but they would also have an experience at camp that would give them an opportunity to earn enough money to make it worth their while. Yeah.
Did they make you do double duty then? Did you have to sing as well?
Not the first 2 years. Now, if we did like a big group thing, we would all sing, but for the most part, we were separate. And, but that was some fun times. Another thing I remember Doug doing, we would be playing a band number in like a Friday night concert, and it was supposed to rain that night. So what he did was, we're going to have raindrops keep falling on my head, ready to go for when we heard the rain hit the roof of the auditorium.
Wow. Yeah.
So here we are, we're playing whatever number we're playing, and either you saw a bolt of lightning out over the lake or something, and so he starts nodding like, okay, it's coming, you know. And then he gave us some kind of signal. I don't remember what it was, but we went over this before the concert. And that's the other cool thing. Before every concert, we would pray for about 10 minutes, you know, right before we would go up on stage. To get our, you know, focus where it should be and everything. And, but that part of the instruction that night was, okay, there's a chance of rain rolling in tonight. So I'm going to give you the signal during whatever song we're going to play. And then he probably had, you know, the drummer, it might've been Hagedorn then, John Hagedorn. I'm not sure if he was there 77, 78 or not. But anyway, he would do like a 4 measure drum roll right in the middle of this song we're playing. And that was, Doug would cue him. And when we heard that, we knew we were changing the music for Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. And it was perfect time. And you heard the rain hitting the roof of the auditorium. And it was kind of cool. That was some of the cool stuff Doug would do.
You know, the fact that, first of all, he was prepared for something like that, but he had to wait for, you know, to hear raindrops coming before he knew that, okay, we're going to pivot to this. That's yeah,
he had that planned out ahead of time, just in case that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, that's fun stuff.
Couple questions for you. Have you seen the podcast before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think I've seen every one.
All right.
I didn't see you did a two-parter with Vance. Is it Punk Vance?
We did one with Punk. We did two with Don
Miller.
Two with Don Miller. Yeah, Don.
Okay, so I don't think I saw those two episodes, but I've seen all the other ones.
All right.
And
have you read Don's book?
Oh yeah, I've been brushing up on it the last couple of days.
There's no quiz. We're not going to quit.
I have it with me.
Okay.
It was funny. I was up at camp this past year for our week. I go up with my sister and brother-in-law and their family. My wife doesn't like to travel too much, so I tag along with my sister and brother-in-law.
Your sister Amy, right?
Amy, yes. Yep.
Yeah. Where do they live again?
She's out in Hershey, actually. Yeah, but Tom, I know you said you used to live in Hershey.
Yeah, my wife's family's there.
Okay, yes.
What's her last name?
Scorza, Scorza.
All right.
That he's retired now. He was a doctor at Hershey Med for a radiologist at Hershey Med for forever.
Yeah, my sister-in-law works at the Med Center. She probably knows her.
Okay.
Her. Yeah.
And so when I got up there for the Saturday night concert, I reconnected with Jim and Margie Brake. I let Jim know every year when I'm coming, and he makes a point to be up there because he has a house on the other side of the lake. And so we were chatting after the concert. He goes, you know, Donnie wrote a book about growing up at camp, and they have them for sale down in the trading post. So went down there after the concert. I didn't see the book anywhere. It's like, well, maybe they, you know, sold out or something, you know, and so I didn't think of it for the rest of the week. And then the following Friday, right before we're going to leave the next day, go down into the trading post after the concert, and there's a big stack of them, both hardcover and soft cover. And then I bought this Camp in the Woods shirt. I realized I hadn't had a Camp in the Woods shirt since I probably was on staff, or like, you know, in the 80s sometime. And so I bought myself a Camp in the Woods shirt and the book.
Yeah,
and
get one of those.
I started reading the book that Friday night after we were done in the teepee back in my accommodation. And it's like, it's getting to be like 11:30 at night. It's like, you knucklehead, you got to drive home 7 hours tomorrow. What are you staying up to read this book, you know? And
that's actually high praise for Don, isn't it?
Well, when you wrote that in the book that your dad called you a knucklehead, I remember him calling you that on several occasions. Yes,
that's what he called me in public. No, he was a gentle. Yeah, he had a good way of. But that's funny. But you would have. Been,
I read the book in 3 days, basically. So that little bit on Friday night, and by Tuesday that next week, I had it complete. I just couldn't put it down. And so then that got me to thinking, because he mentioned me in the beginning with Steve Lutz, and then you wrote a paragraph about me on page 25. I said, I got to reach out to this guy, you know, after all these years.
We're going to get to that. We're going to actually read that here tonight.
Okay.
We got a couple minutes left till we get cut off.
Okay.
So let's maybe get through a couple questions.
Part one. Can you hang on with us, Ed, here for if we sign on again here for another?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, good deal. I was hoping to, yeah.
So you've already answered a couple of these. I want you to look at question 3 and see if you have an answer on that one.
Well, yeah. They're both in my wheelhouse because they're both World Series champions. But yeah, I'm a Schmitty guy.
Yeah.
I wore my Rockies shirt. The Rockies are terrible, but it's the only baseball shirt I really have at this point. So I wore it because I think you're a fan of a baseball fan, yes?
Oh yeah, 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 yep.
Oh,
Yeah, how
really?
about Soto signing with the Mets? Holy cow!
Oh,
That's nuts.
killed me. What a I was thinking this year I was so excited about the Yankees future and I'm like this is a guy I can really get behind. I mean Judge is great.
Yeah,
Stanton, was supposed to be great and he's always hurt and in the postseason like oh here we go. This is the guy he's supposed to be but Soto's going to be that thread and then okay.
yeah.
Anyway.
And
Okay,
they came close.
Yeah.
you had to make a choice, Schmidt or Rollins.
Yeah, Mike Schmidt.
Yeah, he hit all those home runs over our house with a tennis ball every time he
But I mean,
yeah.
but
I
Rollins
mean,
has better stats, maybe.
what's
Yeah.
that?
Rollins may have better stats.
Maybe
Really?
batting average wise, but the power and RBI numbers are all in Schmidt's favor.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy, he was the leadoff batter for that 2008 World Series champion. He was very good when he didn't try to hit home runs. Otherwise, I called him Pop Up Jimmy. If he tried to hit a home run, he usually popped it up. But if he thought through the ball and hitting a line drive, that's when he was most effective. One year he had like 21 triples.
So if you were imitating Rollins when we were playing in front of you would have been ripping like line drive in the gap, which would have hit would have hit Jerry Bird's the roof of the shop there, right?
Yeah, yeah. I can remember both of us on occasion. We hit it over your house.
Oh yeah, that was woo.
That was a shot. Like if everything lined up right, every once in a while we would have to go into your backyard and look for the tennis ball.
That's right. Was probably Thurman Munson when I did that.
Explain that to me. Why were you hanging out with Don? Was this during season? Was this?
We've kind of morphed into postseason now. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
we're definitely
Yeah.
postseason. Yeah, summer.
Yeah, I want to understand that because I read that in the book too. I didn't think too much about it, Don, but to be hanging out with you, that wouldn't have been during a camp season.
Oh no! This
No.
is postseason. So I
This
lived
is postseason on a weekend probably because during the week he would have been in school.
I would have been in school,
Sure.
and during the week, Ed would have been working, doing all the things you were doing, Tom. So this was like I should have maybe clarified. This was like a Saturday afternoon thing in the fall, kind of. I made it seem like we did it all the time. We did it a handful of times, but it was so memorable that I had to write.
Yeah. I went to college for 1 year, and it just wasn't for me. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. Typical 19-year-old or whatever, 18-year-old, really don't know what You're supposed to figure everything out by the time you're 18, and a lot of kids can't figure that out.
Oh,
And
that is my experience exactly.
Yep.
Yeah,
So I think I started hanging with Donnie a little bit in '79, maybe down the beach. Remember throwing the tennis ball in the lake?
absolutely. And we were doing like, hey, Greg Nettles or Mike Schmidt, and get it a short hop and throw it back, and
Or diving, like making an outfield catch into the water.
yes,
We would.
We're gonna get cut off.
Okay.
So we're gonna put a pin in that. We're gonna come right back and pick up. I want to pick up right there, and this is good stuff.
How are we doing here?
And we're back.
And we're back. Yeah, let's see.
All right, so
okay, on the right side.
So what I'm gathering from that story then, Ed, about hanging out with Don, I think, what is there, like a 5 or 6 year difference, age difference?
Yeah, he's 6 years younger than I am. Yes.
Yeah. So you're like his older brother, hanging out at camp with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can remember in that, like that's, I think we started throwing the ball around in the lake in '79 together, and I remember your mother, and see, here's where the age difference comes in. Tom, you call her Mrs. Purdy. I call her Joanne because Mrs. Purdy to me is Don's grandmother.
Oh, yeah, that actually makes more sense.
Yeah.
But
But I can remember your mother coming up because I was a waiter up in the dining hall, and she would come out like behind the counter girls, because she was in charge of the counter girls, making sure that all their T's were crossed and I's were dotted, make sure that was running smoothly. And I remember her coming out, and I guess she might have seen us playing down on the beach or something. And she came on. She goes, "I just want to thank you for playing with my son."
Let me translate.
Like it was a big
for you. I just want to thank you so much for keeping him out of my hair.
Yeah,
you're a godsend.
Yeah. That's funny.
And then
it was so good.
And it was funny because then, as I got to know Don's mother better, and when she got to know me better, then she would start to joke around with you. And then you had to watch yourself, because you'd be standing there talking to the counter girls waiting to get your dessert, and she'd be behind them like fluttering her eyelashes and like going like this on her chest, like trying to embarrass me, or any, so you had to watch yourself with her. She was a fun one.
She was always looking out. So when she watches these, I'll tell you, she brings back a lot of memories. And as has been documented, there's been a long gap between a lot of the contact that and I too have had with old friends. So this is really special to do. But speaking of that, we taking it back to the beginning of this. I was offering you, or suggesting there was proof that you were once in the same place at the same time. Probably more than once, but at least I'm going to share the screen. Can I share the screen now, Tom?
Yeah.
Back to it? Okay.
I'm going to, just real quick, Don.
Yeah, do that, yeah.
We were going to do story time with Ed. We're going to run out of time, and it's fine. This is in the book. If you haven't bought or read Don's book, what are you doing? Go get his book and read this. But it's really awesome because I stalked you out on Facebook, Ed, and as you're finishing up this story, talking about the different players that you guys are emulating, and you're obviously a Phillies fan.
Yeah.
Found this picture, right? Just to kind of put an exclamation point on the story that's on page 25, like you referenced. Who are these folks?
Well, I'm the old guy in the middle. That's my lovely daughter, Maria.
Oh, yeah.
On my right. She's 30 years old and has been married for 2 years now. Okay. And then that's my son, Ed Jr., on my left.
Love it.
And he's turning 28 this in a couple weeks.
Good looking family there.
I cropped the picture, but you're at the stadium, right?
Yeah, Citizens Bank Park. Yep. And we usually don't go early in the season, but my daughter's birthday is May 2nd. And so we went to a Phillies game, and it was pretty chilly that night. So we're all bundled up there. Yep.
Early season games.
Still pretty early there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's that guy?
Yeah, there's Doug. Yeah, we've reconnected in the last few weeks. We've reached out to each other.
Nice. That's awesome.
And this is 1984. Doug had some leave and said he was going to go up to camp. And the main reason we were going this and why we're dressed up, they're Jerry and Phyllis's daughter, Julia, who was born in 1983, I believe. Yeah. She was going to get dedicated at church down at the Northville Baptist Church.
All right.
So that's
Lee and Doug and the Jonathan and Joel, and for Julia's. Oh, that's great.
Dedication to church. Yeah, that's him walking in the door there, Jerry and Phyllis's house.
Okay.
And so that was in like Memorial Day weekend of 84, I believe.
Okay.
So I wasn't on staff anymore. Doug was already in the Air Force. Yeah, he wasn't on staff anymore. But both in 84 and 85, Don, your parents were so gracious to me.
You said you didn't have a Camp of the Woods T-shirt. Go ahead. Sorry, talking about
that Jim Brake took that picture of me, and that's for my busboy years. So I was on music staff for 4 summers, and I'm gonna say Kim Hawks Pasquini did practice in that old music barn or whatever it was called in 1980, because I also sent you the picture, Don, of ripping off the old stage of the auditorium when they were going to put the addition on. So if she was on music staff in 1980, she had to practice in that old building.
Oh, wow. She's going to love that. I know she's watching. And yes.
And the other thing, your Uncle Doug wasn't the music director in 1980. He took a sabbatical that year.
Okay.
And Glenn Doyle did the band, and his father, Bill Doyle, did the choral stuff.
I remember the Doyles were prominent. Okay.
So they filled in for Doug that year. Doug was just personnel director in 1980.
Okay.
So we were
that. But
1980 was my last summer on music staff. After that, I wanted some more free time because, as it's been well documented, we had hardly any free time on music staff. Saturday morning, we had to do work crews after breakfast to get the camp changed over. That was another thing we had to do. My detail was sweeping the auditorium.
Wow. Teed up without.
So this is North Syracuse Baptist Church, right?
North Syracuse Baptist Church. You were there, Tom.
That's the church I grew up in.
All right.
Okay, Tom, let me ask you this. Did you know the Creighton family, Laura Creighton? She became Laura Schroth. Do you know Dan Schroth?
I know Dan Schroth very well. He was good friends with my dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I was in Dan and Laura's wedding in 1980 at that church.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't it wasn't air conditioned. So, they got married on a Saturday. So I was still on music staff in 1980. I probably had to be there on Friday for the rehearsal. So I probably left after lunch, like waiting on tables.
Yeah.
Had to get somebody to fill in for me for Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. Maybe I was back by Saturday night. I don't remember that part. So I would have had to get someone to sub for me in the dining hall. And plus I would have had to tell all my guests that I wasn't going to be there on Saturday morning to get my tip.
So you're going to trust somebody to do that.
Dan Schroth had the best, I just remember this, had the best like lip trumpet, like not a real trumpet, but he could trumpet. It sounded like a trumpet just with his lips.
He used to play. He used to wait out on the porch. That he loved working on the porch. There were tables out on the porch at dining hall where we rang the bell.
Yeah.
He would play concerts out there once everybody was sitting there and eating.
Just with his lips, though, right?
Just with his lips. He would do trumpet. He would do trombone.
He was amazing.
He could even imitate a violin.
He was amazing, yes.
He was hysterical. He had a big influence on me in my first 2 years on staff.
Interesting. He worked there. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
So, Tom, you had a connection, too, with Punk Vance's – no, hold on. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, so –
your uncle, or how was this? Yeah.
Punk Vance's uncle was, he was at this church with me. This is the church we all went to. And he was in leadership of some sort for the church. Just a great guy, Dick Hill. Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go. Just follow along. I know you can, but I basically went through knowing Ed was coming on and knowing, I'm trying to think a common denominator of the two of you. At some point, it feels like you should have met at camp, but I couldn't for sure know that with the timelines, but I knew you were both here. So I went through our wedding video and kind of looked at and cut up and found as many camp people as I could find to be here. So here we go. All right. People came in very quickly. They all wanted to get back to the teepee or whatever. So, sorry. Hold on. Oh, when I don't want sound, Tom, right?
So is that your cousin, cousin Dan Wicklin there on the left?
Yeah.
Who's that guy?
There's Earl.
Frank. There's the loser.
There's your grandmother over Tom's shoulder.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yep. That's my roommate, Frank.
Yep.
Scott. Nate
There's
Reed.
Olsen.
Yeah, there's Uncle Bob.
Okay.
There's
I don't know
Earl.
why.
See Earl in the background. Is that
Oh yeah,
Allman?
Let's see.
that's Mike
Worst.
Ballman in the all the way
Yep.
on the left. Mike Ballman.
Yeah.
Jim Rumsey.
There's the Rumseys. Yeah. There's Angela, and there I am.
Is that Steve Solom?
There are the birds.
Gary Bird. This is great, Don.
There's my wife to
There
be,
you go.
Angela.
There you
And
are.
there I am there. I look thrilled, don't I?
Look, you're +1. That's so good.
All right.
Yeah, so we were there.
Yep.
That's fun.
That we're jumping around here, but I have many fond memories then when I got to work preseason up at camp, how your dad and your Uncle John, who your dad called JVW. He always called him JVW. Where are we going next, JVW? And they would trim the trees around camp, and of course those trees would usually wind up in your fireplace in your house to help heat your house.
Yeah, they would.
There's the Pecks. There's your grandfather, right? Yeah, that's Bob and Ruth Lang.
Yeah, the Pecks.
Yeah.
How long ago this was?
Oh, John and Joel Bird.
Yeah.
Katie and Mary Tracy. My cousins, Dave Grundyke.
Oh, Boondocks.
Yeah.
You ought to do a chapter on camp nicknames in your next book.
There you go. I need your help, but that's a good one. That's a good place.
There are so many nicknames.
Yeah. My Aunt Carol and Uncle Doug.
Oh, yeah.
Dave Hughes, Mark Hughes. Walter Struve.
Oh, Mr. Strube.
So that's
I have a funny Tim Strube story.
Yeah. I would love to reconnect with Tim.
Yeah,
Jimmy Olsen.
The two Olsens.
Yeah. We stayed up in the fall of '83. That was my last summer.
Okay.
So we were both staying up in Woodlands too, down the hall from each other. I think I was in the first room on the left. He was further down the hall. And I forget what time in the middle of the night, like 3:30 in the morning, I woke up to my bed shaking. and the storm windows in the windows were rattling.
What?
And that's when I realized we were having an earthquake.
Whoa.
I know you wrote about one with Lois.
Yeah.
I think this one might have been different. I don't know.
Okay.
And so when you're, it doesn't really last that long, but when it's happening, you don't think it's ever going to stop, because everything's just shaking, And so all of a sudden, when it did stop and I realized what had happened, I hear these footsteps coming down the hallway. Boom, 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 boom. And banging on my door. It's Tim. He goes, "Ed, are you in there? Are you in there?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He said, I thought it was the rapture, and I wanted to make sure you were still here.
That's so good.
That's heavy. That right there.
You got left behind. Oh,
I could have messed with him a little bit there. I didn't realize it then.
You should have.
Yeah.
You really could have messed with them.
Hey, Don.
In the closet and just, yeah.
Don, we got something special coming, don't we?
Oh, James Armstrong. Okay, almost started. Yeah, we all were moving very quickly here. Right? Jim Rumsey. Collins, Reeves, Ken, Steve Solom, my cousin Carol Lee.
Wow.
Steve Solom.
Solom.
All right. Yeah, I threw this together. Mike Ballman. And that's us running away in a car because we were told and we were very afraid that That Scott Olsen was
Yeah,
going to do
Scott.
something.
Like a prank or something.
That's a valid
Yeah.
threat.
Or
Yeah.
worse, yeah.
That's a valid threat.
Let's see what else we could do here.
Yeah, I have a lot more stories. We're not going to get them all in here, but
Oh no, that's
we're
why
gonna need another session with you for sure, Ed.
absolutely. Hold on a second, and let's see. Before we do that,